If you call a spade, you'll get labeled all types of names. Imagine Scott Agnes criticizing South Carolina and Asia Wilson fans for going after Caitlin Clark during her rookie season. Imagine the backlash.
Imagine being so rattled by people clapping that you start comparing them to galactic overlords. That's what we got this week when one Indiana Fever reporter decided Caitlin Clark's fan base wasn't just passionate, they were apparently plotting to overthrow democracy with face paint and rally towels. The piece reads less like basketball coverage and more like fanfiction where Clark's supporters stormed the Death Star concession stand demanding more nacho cheese. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just trying to figure out how cheering for your favorite player makes you a Sith apprentice. Spoiler, it doesn't, and here's the kicker. Calling Clark's fans toxic, while ignoring the fact that half the league is openly body-checking her like it's an audition for WWE is a choice. But hey, maybe nuance got traded for future draft picks. So, while the Fever fight to keep Clark healthy, the real drama is apparently Jedi vs. Sith, Basketball Edition. Coming soon to a theater near you, sponsored by Gatorade and confused journalists everywhere.
In an article, he put something in there, and I don't know if he thought it was going to be a side note to his article, but you cannot call Caitlin Clark fans the dark side of the fandom. No, that wasn't the greatest or smartest idea in the world.
Apparently, cheering too loudly or buying a jersey now qualifies as a federal offense in certain corners of sports media. This writer didn't just roll their eyes at Clark's supporters, they went full Shakespearean meltdown, painting her fanbase like some cult of basketball anarchists plotting to overthrow the WNBA. One standing ovation at a time. Let's be real, Clark fans aren't torch-bearing villagers storming the castle. They're just normal people who enjoy watching a generational talent casually drop logo threes while sipping on an iced coffee. But if you read this article, you'd think they were the final boss in a video game called Fandom, The Reckoning, and here's the irony, without Clark's so-called toxic fanbase, this same journalist wouldn't have a viral article. Nobody clicks on WNBA beat reporter makes reasonable point. But Caitlin Clark fans are Darth Vader, now that gets traffic.
This is really disappointing from a journalist so closely linked to the Indiana Fever organization. This is really, really disappointing, and it's really concerning in my opinion, because it is painting a 23-year-old on their team who is currently injured.
Next thing you know, concession workers handing out popcorn will be branded as stormtroopers, and the Fever's season ticket holders will be accused of plotting intergalactic domination. Forget ESPN, sounds like we need Disney Plus to pick this up as the next Star Wars spin-off, Attack of the Clark stands, and imagine the scenes. Clark hits a 30-footer, the arena erupts, and somewhere this reporter is furiously typing, "See? Proof of organized villainy. Classic Sith behavior." Meanwhile, the rest of us are just enjoying basketball, not plotting to overthrow the Jedi Council.
Imagine Scott Agnes writing an article about the Reese's Pieces and all their negative vitriol, shout out to L. Duncan, that's been targeted to Caitlin Clark. Imagine the backlash he would receive. But what's the safe way out? What's the safest way to big up the Indiana Fever? Well, you tear down Caitlin Clark's fans.
And instead of stepping in, protecting their superstar, and capitalizing on the goldmine they lucked into, Fever management is basically pulling the classic Scooby-Doo villain move, tripping over their own feet and yelling, "If it weren't for those meddling fans." Clark is out here getting blindsided like it's Monday Night Raw, refs are letting it slide like it's improv night at a comedy club, and the front office response is, shrug emoji. At this point, Velma has solved more mysteries in 20 minutes than Fever management has solved all season.
This is very sad, very disappointing. It's disgusting that Caitlin Clark has to be subjected to this nonsense, and enough's enough. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. She needs to come out and draw the line in the sand, and it would not shock me if at some point, man, Caitlin Clark is just done with this.
The WNBA somehow looked at a once-in-a-generation scorer who pulled millions of eyeballs into the sport and said, you know what would be fun? Let's surround her with refs who think they're the main characters. Forget protecting the league's most marketable player, nah, let's turn every drive, every step back, every cross-court dime into a masterclass in whistle-based performance art. It's less basketball, more Romeo and Juliet with striped shirts, where Juliet, Clark, gets hacked on the arm and the ref decides the real foul was eye contact. These officials don't need training, they need Oscars. Every call is delivered with the drama of Hamlet holding a skull, to block, or to charge. That is the question. Meanwhile, fans came for highlight reels and deep threes, but they're leaving with front row seats to the petty referee cinematic universe.
Yesterday, they also announced the skills competition for the WNBA All-Star team. And she didn't make that either. So you argued she wasn't good for the Olympics. Your argument, though I don't buy it, but it was your argument, women's basketball, that she would be a distraction. So isn't the perfect place to put her in the skills competition?
The NCAA rolled out the red carpet like Caitlyn was Taylor Swift walking into the Grammys. The WNBA. They rolled out cafeteria drama. It's Mean Girls in sneakers, you can't sit with us, unless you're averaging 12 points and zero cultural impact. And then there's our dear reporter, the self-appointed Gandalf of gatekeeping. Every Clark fan. Toxic. Every clap. Problematic. Every standing ovation. A microaggression. This man didn't study journalism, he majored in how to be mad online with a minor in blocking people who disagree with me. Call out obvious targeting on the court. He vanishes faster than Regina George's trust circle. Ask about objectivity. He pivots so hard you'd think he was auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. And all from the safety of his bitterness bunker, typing away like the resistance fighter no one asked for.
Winners of 7 of 9. The Fever are playing connect.
This man claims he's endured so much hate. Hate. Please. Caitlin Clark has been mugged mid-dribble like she's carrying the crown jewels, elbowed with the precision of a WWE finishing move, and still shows up to pressers smiling and thanking the fans. Meanwhile, Captain Columnist here catches one spicy comment under his article and suddenly he's writing his memoirs titled The Boy Who Lived Through Twitter Replies, and the receipts don't lie. He's never once raised his pen against the endless cheap shots thrown at Clark. Not when she got blindsided, not when she got clobbered on drives, not when refs looked away like they were watching Netflix instead of the game. Nothing. But when it comes to Clark's fans, boom. Pulitzer-level passion. Suddenly he's Shakespeare with Wi-Fi, and oh, the gymnastics. The way he spins Clark's supporters into villains is orbit gum on a washing machine. Pure orbit-level spinning. We're talking rhetorical pretzels so twisted anti-ends might have a copyright claim. Try to bring up basketball. He sidesteps like a dad when you ask why the garage door's still broken. Forget the body checks, let's talk about how you're toxic for noticing.
Nasty, nasty. If y'all don't know who Scott Agnes is, he's a guy that's he's very close to the team. He gets a lot of access. He's in the practices. He's interviewing the players at practice. He's interviewing the players pre-game, post-game. He is very close with the team and has a lot of access to the players and the team.
Even more pathetic is how this whole saga has turned into a cottage industry of envy. The WNBA spent decades begging for mainstream attention, commercials, ticket sales, sponsorships, anything. Now Caitlin Clark shows up, single-handedly crashing websites with jersey sales and putting butts in seats, and somehow the real crime is being too successful. It's like that coworker who scrolls Instagram all day, then gets furious when someone else actually earns the promotion. Only in this case, instead of office gossip, we've got flying elbows, ejections, and one very bitter man rage blogging on WordPress like he's exposing Watergate. And can we talk about this gem? She's not the only rookie. Wow. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Next he'll be breaking the news that water is wet. Nobody said she was the only rookie, just the one transforming the league's entire economy. But in today's twisted logic, buying a Caitlin Clark jersey apparently makes you one emotional tweet away from starting a cult. The grand irony? These pundits and reporters who make their living bashing Caitlin and her fans would be about as relevant as a MySpace password if she weren't in the league. No viral Clark takes, no clicks. Half of them would be tweeting about pickleball tournaments and reviewing Waffle House hash browns for attention. And they know it.
The ignorance is loud here, folks. They're only there for Clark. Boy, you stepped in it. But that dark side can easily seep into the team. The Caitlin Clark fans, the dark side. Because they're very passionate about a player, and yes, they've put their money where their mouth is. So these people, these fans, feel invested.
This man has literally built his entire platform on not supporting Caitlin Clark. He's the self-appointed president of the anti-fans fan club, whose whole brand is shouting into the void about how she's overrated, then gaslighting anyone who dares point out the obvious. She isn't just good, she's revolutionary. Let's be real. If Clark played in a league where professionalism was the standard and favoritism wasn't the marketing strategy, she'd already be in MVP conversations. Instead, she's out here surviving defensive ambushes like she's auditioning for Gladiator, while refs sip herbal tea and pretend the scoreboard is more interesting than a blindside body check. The irony? Every time Clark shows humility, class, or restraint, traits we're told athletes should have, it somehow gets twisted against her. Why doesn't she fight back? Why is she so quiet? Maybe because she knows the microscope is already locked on her face, blinking red. She doesn't need to feed trolls, especially the ones who haven't watched a full game without bias since flip phones were cool. Let's not forget the math. One woman has brought millions of dollars in value to a league that, 5 years ago, couldn't sell out a concession stand. Fans are finally engaged with women's basketball on a national level. And the response from certain media corners? You guys clap too loudly. Please stop liking her. This would be hilarious if it weren't so utterly pathetic.
And a Fever reporter, Scott Agnes, has decided that now would be the time, now that the Fever have won a few games, now would be the time to attack Caitlin Clark fans. While, of course, and I'm not even going to go through because some of them are really nasty.
Caitlin Clark didn't just make the WNBA relevant, she made it unavoidable. ESPN covers her like she's running for president. Opposing arenas erupt when she drains a three. Entire cities see tourism spikes when the Fever roll into town. But sure, let's keep the narrative that the fans are the problem. Not the elbow throwing. Not the no calls. Not the league's refusal to protect its most valuable asset. Not even the laughably biased officiating that would make a soccer ref blush. Nope, it's those pesky fans buying t-shirts and filling stadiums. Well, if that's the dark side, then pass me the lightsaber, because this version of the Force is generating revenue, growing the sport, and giving young girls a reason to dream bigger. Meanwhile, our dear reporter can keep hammering away in the comfort of his own irrelevance, watching the game he claims to love finally rise, just not in the way he wanted. 1 minute, Caitlin splitting defenders like Moses parting the Red Sea. The next, she's whistled for a travel generous enough to make her grandma laugh. Meanwhile, opponents throw elbows with all the subtlety of a drunken rhinoceros, and the refs? Crickets. It's like they're auditioning for America's Funniest Home Whistleblows.
By off social media, do you mean that they don't read the notifications? Because they're all on social media, except for maybe Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. You want me to believe, Brianna Turner's always on social media. You want me to believe that these players who are so addicted to the drama, who are so addicted to the outside noise, have gone off social media? Stop gaslighting us. We don't believe you. You need more people. We don't believe you. You need more people.
Let's not forget the creative foul calls that seem to exist only for Caitlin Clark. Drive to the rim. That's a flagrant. Contest a three. That's a technical. Blink on defense. Better roll the tape for review. Honestly, it's almost impressive how consistently inconsistent they manage to be. You get a fairer ruling from a toddler deciding who gets the booster seat, and then there's the luxury of league rules. Favoritism? Check. Double standards? Check. Racism lurking under the surface? Absolutely. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book where every ending somehow makes Caitlyn the villain. She gets fouled. Cue the endless replays of her reaction until it looks like a crime scene. She smiles after a clutch shot. Zoom in, slow motion, dramatic music, because clearly joy is suspicious behavior.
Now, you would think that sentence is actually setting up in defense of the Indiana Fever, right? Because when you're at the top of the mountain, when you're the GOAT at the top of the mountain, you are going to get all the arrows. You're going to get all the arrows. This is true in any sport. This is true in life in general. When you are successful, you become a target. It doesn't matter that you might have started at the...
At least Darth Vader got a cool theme. But here's the kicker. Despite all this nonsense, Caitlin Clark bundles up every cheap shot and bad whistle like it's Christmas morning. She just shakes her head, jogs back on defense, and keeps putting up numbers that make calculators file for early retirement. And us fans? We're right there with her, cheering, because supporting excellence isn't optional, it's compulsory. Meanwhile, our keyboard warrior reporter is probably at home polishing his "I told you so" trophy, while Caitlyn is out there being the WNBA's MVP and everything but the official box score. To him, the fans are the problem. To us, he's the comic relief, like that one uncle at Thanksgiving who insists gravy is a government conspiracy. So stay tuned, because the grand finale is coming. And when it does, we're roasting this entire spectacle to a crisp. One truth will remain: in basketball, as in life, you don't get to pick the hero. The hero picks you. And Caitlin Clark has already made her choice.